Opera. The majesty of the voice, the swell of the orchestra, the passion on stage. But what you see and hear is only the tip of the iceberg.
The excitement is hearing an acoustic sound from one individual, which is pretty amazing. I mean, if you go to see big operas where the orchestra is much bigger and the sound of the singers have to be much bigger, to have one person heard against that, it's a phenomenon. That's why there's so few singers in the world who can sing certain parts.
I love singers because they all want to do the best in terms of performance, but they also have this other part of their psyche, which is the score. So you're working with people who are kind of split, and I find that split really fascinating, that there's always the sense of what's on the score page matters an awful lot, but they're also there for you to kind of do good acting. So I love that aspect of it. I love that sense of when it all starts to come together, particularly the Sitzprobe, and you can sense that it's coming, that this amazing event is coming, and there's this excitement and this sense of occasion that you're slowly moving towards a new version of this great work.
But years before we get to this moment, a new production starts life with the blood, sweat and tears of the creative team, the people that create a world where the opera makes sense.
The role of the director is first an interpretive one. You decide how to stage it, where to set it, whether to recreate its original performance conditions, which means doing it in the period in which it was first performed or composed, and if not, where to set it. So they're those broad brushstroke questions. The basic relationship with the designer is to just keep saying, we're doing it here, what's the best way to represent that? And the designer comes up with endless versions of a response to that.
Well, everything you see on stage, I've made a decision about. So if the stage is empty, I've made that decision. If the stage is full of clutter, I've made a decision about every piece of clutter. It's been run by me and I've said yes or no. And also everything anybody wears, down to the watch, the earrings, the shoes, the frock, the hair, the beard, the whatever. So you sit down at the drawing board with a pencil and you just do plans and shapes and try to work out how the action will work in the shape you've designed or are trying to design, and how to get so many people on stage, and if the chorus is enormous, well, where are they going to be? If it's tiny, you just faff around for a couple of weeks, sort of drawing it and crossing it out and starting again and going back and trying something new. You find images, and sometimes you find images that just relate emotionally to your approach to what you've heard and seen and read about the project, if it's an opera, for example. And very often you're not even sure why you've chosen them. They've just somehow spoken to you about the story or whatever. You just amass them, and then you sit around with the director and you look at the images and you talk about the story and hope that something goes click. And usually it does. Sometimes it takes longer than other times. You drink an awful lot of coffee. But it does happen eventually, and it has to make sense to the director in terms of how he's going to direct a show on stage, and has to make sense. You have to feel that it makes sense to an audience, and that they will be able to follow it and understand it and relate to it and like it, and it has to relate to the music as well. So all of these things you sit around and discuss and test and come up with an answer eventually.
In that time, 1,000 logistical questions are asked and answered. Problems are discovered and solved, and skilled workers perform minor miracles every day to realize the creative vision.